Coach of the Year. Let's take a look at the candidates. It is Laura Harvey from OL Reign, Scott Parkinson, New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC, and Mark Parsons for Portland Thorns FC. Again, another one of these categories that only has 3 selections. That's not new. I believe in years prior there have been only 3 and then 5 for some of the other ones. But you know, we're on here. This is our show, so we're of course going to make the case to have more nominees, broaden the ballot a little bit, make it interesting. But let's take a look at this one. I went first with the pick for goalkeeper. I'm going to swing it back your way, Lisa. Laura Harvey, Scott Parkinson, Mark Parson. Who's your pick and why?
So this was tricky. This was really, really tricky. We talked about only having 3 nominees for Coach of the Year. Remember, so many coaches left this year. And that being said, 2 of the coaches that stepped into the head coaching position, Laura Harvey and Scott Parkinson, are on this ballot. Not even having a full season under them, they were able to make a huge impact. So that is fantastic. Those are the things that I look at right away. And I'm like, yes, Scott Parkinson came in and made a difference. Now he had a very, very limited amount of time with Gotham. And I don't think Freya Kuhn did a bad job with Gotham. So it's not like he came in and had to pick up all of these pieces that were falling apart. It was more just like, okay, like let's keep the train moving. He did get them into the postseason, but ultimately not the front runner for me, Scott Parkinson. And you look at Laura Harvey and Mark Parsons. Harvey, a coach that came in after the Olympics, and she was with OL Reign before when it was called Seattle Reign FC from 2013 to 2017. During that time, she won Coach of the Year twice, heads up. So she knows what she's doing, and she knows what she's doing at that team specifically. But after Harvey came in, they lost 1 to Kansas City, and then they went on an 8-game undefeated streak. As a new coach coming in and a lot of new players coming in, that's when all of the French talent came in with Marjan and Eugenie Le Sommer. Rose Lavelle was back, Megan Rapinoe back from the Olympics. And Laura Harvey had a lot of work to do, having all of this individual talent and finding the ways to make it fit on the field and be successful. Moving Sofia Huerta from midfield to outside back, we saw the tactical and fundamental changes that Laura Harvey was doing with her squad that make her a really, really good candidate. Ultimately, OL Reign finished numbers 2 in the regular season standings. Like, that is huge. They get a trip automatically to the semifinals in the postseason. That's a lot. That's big gold stars for Laura Harvey. However, Mark Parsons is the Coach of the Year for me. I pick him through and through because although Laura Harvey has all these great accolades that we could see happening on the pitch, in bringing the great players together and making them work, moving Sofia Huerta around, Mark Parsons, his team was good every single day, no matter how many Olympians they lost throughout the summer, no matter how many players got injured and what happened, he had the pieces to make it work. And I think that having a bench as deep as Mark Parsons has and as Portland has is a really big testament to the coaching, because that means that every day in training, it's not starters against non-starters. It's mixed up. And because of that, it keeps everyone's level really, really high. Also, a factor that came into this early in the season, like May 20th or so, Mark Parsons announced that he was leaving at the end of the regular season, or at the end of the 2021 season, to go coach internationally with the Netherlands. That can be something that can affect a coach, can affect a team, can affect an organization. And instead of that happening, in Portland and the players and the community and the city really rallied around Mark Parsons, showing how much they love him, how much great success they want for him to come after the Thorns. And that could have deterred him or the players, and it didn't. It actually made them stronger, I think, because every day it was like, let's do this for Mark. Let's do this for Parsons, and then let's get this win. So I picked Mark Parsons, go out with a bang after his last year with Portland Thorns and having all the young players that he brought in and just creating the culture at Portland that he has. I picked Mark Parsons. Sandra, who do you have between our 3 coaches for Coach of the Year?
I'm also going with Mark Parsons in this one. And again, this is a candidate list that I look at, and I think, like, there's, once again, you're making cases for all of these coaches. And there are strong cases for each of them. But 2 of them had limited time, with their clubs this year. There can also be a further argument on the Gotham side that Freya Kuhn perhaps deserves a little bit of attention for what happened with Gotham FC. Sort of, having that runner-up finish in the 2021 Challenge Cup, having the team in a 5-6-3 record to start the season, ultimately having 14 games with them versus Parkinson's 10, or so matches with the team. And there's an argument to be made there. There could have been maybe 2 coaches on this list for Gotham specifically, but that's not how it shook out. It came down to the 3. But I think again, for so many of the reasons that you've already mentioned for Mark Parsons are similar ones that I'm going with as well. I think maybe I'll just add that in between all that, maybe this is a bit of a Coach of the Year award that's been in the making a little bit, because this is a regular season in 2021 that all of these players have been participating in for the first time since 2019. There was the height of the pandemic that rocked everybody globally, and in particular the league, in which there was no regular season for 2020. And I think a lot of people, because of that, maybe sort of forget like this progression that Mark Parsons has sort of made with this club over these last, 18 months or so. But, there was a bit of a max exodus from that 2019 Portland Thorns roster. In some capacity, there were players who made new signings overseas, or they did not re-sign with the club, and there were trades that were made. We saw the departure of Margaret Purse and the arrival of Rocky Rodriguez. Even having somebody like Angela Salem, picking her specifically in a dispersal draft in 2018, and sort of having this remarkable kind of comeback season, bounce back season in 2021, and then navigating a draft that had them picking Morgan Weaver and Sophia Smith. So that 2020 was perhaps always going to be a bit of a building year for them, but they didn't really get that because of what the 2020 Challenge Cup ended up being, and ultimately the fall series, where they came out the victors. They came out as winners of that Community Shield. So coming into 2021, to start off this sort of year with, hey, I'm actually not going to be here anymore, that could rock a boat in a way that deters a team to be perhaps not be as successful as they were. But that's not the case for Parson and his 2021 Thorns side. They have gone on this year to win everything in sight, no matter what it has been, whether it was a 2020 Challenge Cup, whether it was an exhibition-esque type of tournament in the Women's ICC Cup, and winning that there, and then now winning the full season 2021 Shield Award. And then, there's just like so many things that were in front of them this year, but they went through. So there were times this season where there was a little bit of dual responsibility, right? Having to go and be with Netherlands during international windows. But this is a team that Parsons built and constructed to sort of have this payoff in 2021, to sort of put together the results that they were able to do this season. So even without them even like maybe having the struggles to win, but still not faltering in their play, still having, being able to pick up draws instead of a win or a loss, or being able to sort of continue to show, that continuity and showing off their depth of their squad is very, very impressive. So, the utilization of Salem and Rodriguez sort of in the midfield is something that's been integral to their success this year. We're watching the continued development of Bella Bixby, of Sophia Smith and Morgan Weaver, and that has earned them all call-ups to the national team, and this has all sort of been under the era of Mark Parsons. So whether it's a combination of sort of looking at all of the things that have built up to 21, or even just if we're narrowing it down to 2021, I still think Parsons has the best case in this one, and that's why I also am going with him for Coach of the Year.